Hi, welcome to this week's video. This week we're going to talk about 5 habits that might be keeping you broke. Being broke is indeed a habit. It's actually a series of habits. So if you find yourself often broke or in debt, or your net worth is 0 or close to 0 and it's not quite where you want it to be, and you often find yourself without money, you might want to examine yourself against these habits. In no particular order, here are 5 habits that might be keeping you broke. Number 1, not tracking your money. By not tracking your money, you have no idea where your money is going. You have no idea what you're spending on, what you need to do to improve. There's a well-known concept in the business world that goes like this: what gets measured gets managed. In other words, out of sight, out of mind, as we often say. If you have no idea where your money is going, if you have no idea what your expenses are, how will you ever figure out a way to improve them? If you don't track it and you don't know where your money is going, it seems to continue to flow out of your life and you don't even know where it's going. And tracking doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be a chore. You can make it as simple as you want. It can be as simple as jotting down in a notebook what you're spending. It could be in a spreadsheet. It could be in an app. There are so many apps out there right now that will help you track your spending. And my favorite way personally is to put everything on my credit card and then just look at my statement at the end of the month. Now, let me caution you, if you're not good with credit cards, don't do that. You can do it with your debit card. The key here, or the principle, is that all of the money that you spend comes from a single source. So every transaction that you make, either you put it on your debit card, on your one debit card, not on multiple debit cards, because if you put it on multiple debits or credits, then at the end of the month, you're going to have to put all of those statements together to figure out what you spent. So if you spend everything from one bank account using your debit card, or what I do is use one credit card for all of my expenditures, then at the end of the month, the credit card actually groups, or the statement groups everything into categories such as food and transportation and gas or shopping and so on. So there are many different ways of tracking your money. The key is for you to get going on tracking your money. This is the granddaddy of all financial habits. It's the big kahuna. Or is it hakuna? Hakuna matata. No, it's kahuna. It's the big kahuna of all habits. So get good at tracking your money. Habit number 2 that might be keeping you broke: not living within your means. It means you are spending more money than you're earning. If you have any kind of debt apart from mortgage or student loans, you are not living within your means. You might say, well, what about a car payment or any other kind of payment that you might have for a car? If you are not able to pay outright for your car, you can't afford it. If you have to go on monthly payments, you can't afford it. If you want a particular kind of car, save your money, buy the car outright. And you can buy a really good car for just a few $1,000s. Never, ever, ever buy a brand new car. It's not a good financial decision, at least in my opinion. It's not a good investment. The moment you take a brand new car off the lot, you've already lost a percentage of its value. And within the first 1 to 2 years, 20% of the value of that car is gone. So a car is not a good investment. It's not a good use of your money. So having a car payment is not living within your means, in my opinion. Don't go out there and buy the latest versions of gadgets, the latest version of iPhone, or the latest model of a car, or the newest eyeshadow palette from Sephora. You don't need it. You don't need any of that. I often hear people say, oh, I got a pay increase. Now I'm making $70,000. Let's say they were making $60,000 and now I'm making $70,000 a year, and I've got a $10,000 pay increase. I'm going to reward myself, or I'm going to go celebrate. What's happening is that if that's how you're thinking, you're falling into this trap of not only having an inflated lifestyle, meaning the moment your income goes up, your lifestyle balloons and inflates, and it just sucks up all of that extra money that you were making. So at the end of the day, you're living like you're not making any extra money to begin with. And then the other part of the equation is that Don't fool yourself into thinking that you are actually making your gross income. So if you're making $70,000 or $80,000 in gross income, that's not your spending money. You can't live on $80,000. You can't live a lifestyle of $80,000 a year when $80,000 is your gross income. You've forgotten the taxes. So here's the actual reality. If you're making $60,000 and you get a big $10,000 raise, and then let's say you get another big $10,000 raise, so you go from $60,000 a year gross income to $70,000 gross income, and then to $80,000 a year gross income. Now at first blush, that's awesome. That looks like a lot of money. But here, let me break it down for you. I made some notes here. I made some calculations, especially if you live in Canada. So if you're making $60,000 a year, you are actually bringing home $46,000. That's net income, $46,000. Broken down, if you are working for somebody else and you're getting paycheck every other week, your paycheck is $1,769. That's your take-home pay after taxes every 2 weeks. Now, let's bump your salary now up to $70,000. You're making $70,000 gross income. Your net is actually $53,000 a year. So now you go from $46,000 to $53,000, and you're bringing home $2,038. You've only gone up $269. That's it. That $10,000 pay increase that you just got translates to $269 every 2 weeks. And if you go up to now $80,000 a year, you're bringing home $60,000 in net income. Your salary now goes up another $269,000. That's it. So at first blush, you feel like you got this big $10,000 increase. That can play this weird psychological trick on you into thinking now you have a lot more money to spend. You don't. You barely got $260 every 2 weeks. That's what it translates. That's what $10,000 a year increase, with that level of income in Canada translates into actual dollars in your pocket every 2 weeks. So be careful, live within your means. Habit number 3 that might be keeping you broke. If shopping has become a hobby for you, if you find yourself broke or without the kind of financial situation that you really want to be in, examine your purchasing habits. Unfortunately, for many people, shopping has become a habit. It has become a sport. It has become a hobby. This media-driven, Instagram-driven world that we live in, it doesn't serve us financially. And because people tend to want to buy everything that they see, every new gadget that comes up that they see on Instagram, somebody else is wearing this and somebody else is driving this and somebody else is having this. So it's constantly beckoning you to spend your money. And if that wasn't bad enough, buying things is so easy. You can be sitting in your pajamas on your sofa, you see somebody, you're scrolling on Instagram, you see somebody wearing something, you go to Amazon, and with one click, you can have whatever it is that your heart desires delivered to your door the very next day. So if shopping has become somewhat of a hobby for you, it's time to think about that. It's time to examine that. And a place to start is look at your purchasing history. If you spend money on your credit card or if you spend on debit card, look at your transaction history. Can you look at a month and see how many days you went without spending? Are there any days where you had no transactions on your credit card, where you had no transactions on your debit card? This is where using debit or credit card, depending on your personality, is really good compared to using cash. Because if you're using cash, you have no idea where that money went. You have no idea what you purchased. At least if you spend money on debit card or credit card, you can look at the history, you can look at your statement. And that is a telling way to look at yourself and look at your shopping history. See if you have any days where you haven't spent money. And if you see ongoing transactions every day or even every other day, or worse, multiple times a day, it's time to take stock of your spending habits and really take a look at why you're spending money, what you're spending money on. And it's time to cultivate some habits that don't involve spending money. Cultivate habits that are going to help you grow as a person. Cultivate habits that are going to connect you to other people and even possibly help you give back, that in turn makes you feel really good. It could be as simple as reading and listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to Audible, listening to audiobooks, going for a walk, exercising, talking to friends. That doesn't involve going shopping with friends or going to buy things with friends. So cultivate habits that will keep you healthy and wealthy in the long term. Habit number 4 that might be keeping you broke. It's if your self-worth comes from stuff. If your self-worth comes from what you own, what you purchase. Unfortunately, this is a game many people play, and it's a no-win game. It's when you feel like you have to acquire the next thing. It's when you feel like you have to buy the next best thing. You have to buy the next popular thing. You have to look like somebody else. You have to behave like somebody else. You have to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Sometimes it comes in the form of, you've achieved a certain level of success in your life. You are at this stage of your life, so you should have this kind of house, you should have this kind of car, you should be having this kind of watch because you're in whatever kind of job everybody else has this, so you should have as well. It's a vicious cycle that never ends, and it never brings you happiness. Because think about it, if your stuff brought you happiness, if buying that car, if buying that big house, if buying that watch, that piece of jewelry, if that brought you happiness and fulfillment, you would never have to buy anything again, because you would buy that, you would be happy forever. But we know that that's not the case. You buy that and you feel good for a little while, for a few minutes and maybe a few days, and then you see the next best thing that's out in the market, and now you want to go have that because you feel like you are only worth something if you own certain things. You define yourself by what you own. You define yourself by objects that are outside of you, that bring you happiness, that bring you, or you think they bring you happiness, and you think that that's what makes you feel worthy. So in order to feel relevant and worthy, you have to constantly acquire. You have to constantly get more things. And even then, all you have to show for it is debt and this feeling of never feeling fulfilled and this feeling of never feeling good enough. Habit number 5 that might be keeping you broke is you don't pay yourself first. What do I mean by that? So you get a paycheck every 2 weeks or once a month, and you pay all of your bills, and you pay for your mortgage, you pay for your rent, you pay for your utilities, you pay for food, you spend some money going out to a restaurant, you buy some clothes, you pay all of your bills, you pay your credit card bill, and whatever's left at the end of that, that's what you will save. And a lot of times the reality is there's nothing left at the end of the day because you haven't really figured out what you want to save. So wealthy people pay themselves first. So if you're constantly broke, you have to look at that. You have to pay yourself first. As soon as you get your paycheck, you put a certain amount, whatever percentage you've decided you're going to save, you're going to save that first. That's your first bill. Your first payment is to yourself. That's what it means to pay yourself first. You get your paycheck, you pay yourself first. Put that 10%, 20%, or 50%, put that aside. Then you can decide what's going to happen with that money. You can save it and put it in your sanity fund and put it in your retirement fund and all of that. You can decide that. But the first thing you do is pay yourself first. So there you have it. Those are the 5 habits that might be keeping you broke. Let me know in the comments below, do any of these 5 habits apply to you? Which one of these 5 or which 2 of these 5 do you feel like you need to work on the most? Don't forget to comment below and hit the like button, hit the share button, and if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and I will see you next Thursday.